Amen.
So, the Rosh Hashiva asked me to say a few words. The Rosh Hashiva actually, because I'm sure that they would have you like a Medrash, a friend from the old days. So, without further ado, in the Medrash, in this week's Parsha, actually, it says the Medrash brings a pasuk in Yeshaya. B'za'akech yatziluch kibutzayich. When you're a scholar, your togetherness will say B'za'akech. When you're Zoyek, you're a Yisroel. Yatziluch, you will be saying kibutzayich by your kibbutz. And the Medrash says, Kibutzayich, the kibbutz b'av. His kibbutz, his togetherness, and the togetherness of Yaakov with the sons. Yisroel, they saved him from his son. So B'za'akech yatziluch kibutzayich. So the Mefarshim asked, the word kinusoi is difficult to understand because it should have said the kinus of Yaakov with his sons, that they were all one. What does it mean when we think about a single individual person and we say kinusoi? Kinusoi or kinusoi? So the Maharzav, one of the Mefarshim, the classic Mefarshim of Medrash, says a very interesting thing, that when we speak about a person who is mechunas and gathered into himself, it really is the foundation of the whole inyan of Tefillah, the inyan of davening. Because, he says, think about it, we call a shul a base knesses. But only a shul is called a base knesses. Not every other house which is made for people to gather in do we call a base knesses. A shul is called a base knesses. Why? Because the yesod of tefillah is that a person should be mechunas and focused and concentrated into himself. Which means that people have all kinds of different desires and thoughts and hopes and aspirations. And a person can sometimes be all over the place, as they say, not focused in one nekuda. And the meaning of davening is when you gather everything together into one point in order to be misfollowed for your Yisroel. So therefore, a shul is called a base knesses. And that's what it means when we say kinusoi, kinus. It means that each and every one of them, when they were misfollowed, they were completely focused into one nekuda. And the opposite of that is when a person is suffering from pizur hanefesh. He's suffering from being distracted, and his thoughts are diffused, and he's all over the place in his own. And that can be b'shas tefillah. A very similar thought is expressed in the Pri Tzadik on this medrash, and he says, we find in the Gemara in the Seftes Brachos that Abba Binyamin was a certain tzaddik, and he said, all my life I'm b'tzar, I'm mitzta'er, I struggle. Shtehei tfilasi lefnei mitasi. That is, when I wake up in the morning, I should immediately daven. Tfilasi lefnei mitasi. As opposed to what? So there's a machlokas Rashi and Tosfos. If it means as opposed to learning before davening or doing malacha before davening. He always was hoping that he should have tfilasi lefnei mitasi, that as soon as he wakes up, he should daven. So the obvious question is, why is he so much tired? Why don't you just do it? Wake up and daven. What's there to be mitzvah about? So Tzaddik explains that tfilasi lefnei mitasi means that you are in a place that when you wake up, you immediately find yourself in the right place of concentration to be able to be inspired. Some people, and most people, and it seems Abba Binyamin himself, most of the time, was not able to just wake up and immediately face the Rebbeinu Shalom b'tefillah. He needed to have a preparation. He needed to have a hachana. He needed to get to a certain level. And that level can be achieved sometimes through learning Torah, and that level can sometimes be achieved not through learning Torah, but through focusing and thinking about Machshavos and thoughts of Yirah Shamayim. And these two things, learning Torah and Yirah Shamayim, is called Torah Umalacha. So that's the two pshatim of Rashi and Tosfos. And he brings the Gemara in later on in the Masechta, where it says that each Tana, or each Tana, and many Amoraim, had their private tefillah that they would say. And the tefillah of Rebbe Elazar was, V'nashkin v'nimtza yichul l'vavenu l'yira eshemecha. Which means that when I wake up in the morning, he's asking, I should right away find myself ready to daven. So what does it mean, ready to daven? Where all his machshavos are focused in one place, where they need to be, as opposed to having pizur nefesh and needing to get there. And Reb Tzaddik goes on and on about Arichas and explains different Mamar Chazal based on this idea. But the idea is that l'tava yivakesh nifra. People are usually in a matzav where they are full of tava, which means full of desires, full of hopes and things that they would like. And this causes the person to be all over the place. And the tefillah is v'nashkim nimtza yichul l'vavenu. The tava of our heart should be l'yira shemecha only. And therefore, as soon as he wakes up, he'll be able to daven. That's the idea of philosophy of Fnei Mikasi. It was always inspired that it should be philosophy of Fnei Mikasi. That's what the Tzaddik says Pshat in the Medrash. Now really, just to continue this thought, there's some Sofer in the Drosha says, and this in and of itself is a very fascinating thought. We all know that in the time of Bayesheni, in the time of Ezra Sofer, they got together, the Chachamim, the Anshe Mishnah, and they were mevatel the Yetzer of Avodah Zarah. Until that time, it was unbelievably difficult nisoyer, a very difficult Yetzirah, which drove people to want to do Avodah Zarah. We don't even today feel any kind of an inclination to worship Avodah Zarah. What happened? They were mevatel the Yetzirah of Avodah Zarah. They will mevatel it. So the Chassam Sofer says that Al Pi Pshat, how would they mevatel the Yetzirah of Avodah Zarah? Because you have to understand what the Yetzirah of Avodah Zarah was. The Yetzirah of Avodah Zarah was the following: in the Yiddish religion, in our Yiddishkeit, every person relates to the Rebbeinu Shalom as an individual. There's no communal service, so to say, to the Rebbeinu Shalom, where people get together as a chabura and as a group to be mispalel. Tefillah is a very private thing. You talk to the Rebbeinu Shalom and you ask for what you want and for what you need. And you talk to the Rebbeinu Shalom. The Rambam says, mitzvah saseh min haTorah levarech, I'm sorry. The Rambam says that it's a mitzvah saseh min haTorah to be mispalel to the Rebbeinu Shalom for whatever you may need. Mitzvah saseh lehispalel b'chol yom. To daven every day. Shneimah b'avadas Hashem Elokeichem, yesh mo'amur, avodah tefillah. It's avodah tefillah. The amount of tefillah is not min haTorah. The nusach of the tefillah is not min haTorah. Nothing is midaraisa. Just what? The fact that when you need something, you should be mispalel to the Rebbeinu Shalom. That is the raisa. Maybe once a day is the raisa. So there's no connecting to the Rebbeinu Shalom as a group. There's only connecting to the Rebbeinu Shalom as an individual. And the Yetzirah of Avodah Zarah, says the Chassam Sofer, was because when we lived in Eretz Yisroel, it was amongst the Emorim, amongst the different nations that were there, and they were the Avodah Zarah. This seemed very, very enticing to us, that people get together as a group, and as a chabura, and as a oilam together, and to do and to serve their what they believe in together. And this is why there was a big draw that Avodah Zarah had on the and when Anshe Mesiba understood this and realized this, and they had the insight, and they had the right to make takonas. So they were masakin the concept of communal davening. The concept of communal davening means that they were masakin a nusach, a common nusach for everyone to daven in. Not that everyone should just express himself in his own words, but that there should be a fixed liturgy that everyone does together. And the concept also of a minyan, that 10 people get together is a minyan. When there's a minyan, you can say a davar shebekdusha, you can say nakdisha, you can say kaddish. This whole idea was a new thing that was introduced by the Chanuka, and that's how they were able to slay the Yisroel of Avodah Zarah. It was no longer a draw. The Avodah Zarah sold a draw. Because coming to the Beis Hamikdash 3 times a year was not enough. It was not enough coming. It was not enough. What's with all the Bein Hazmanim? What's with all the times in between those times? So, yeah, that's what some Sefer says. Derech Hagav, you can say that based on this some Sefer, you see that the Sephardim says that the whole concept of a Mishkan is really like a plan B. Because before the Chet HaEgel, the idea was, the ideal is, no need for a Mishkan. After the Chet HaEgel, have a Mishkan. Similarly, if Eden would be the way they need to be, or are able to be potentially, then there would be no need for Beis HaKnesset either. It's like since we can't, it's like since there's a Chet HaEgel out there, therefore, yeah. So now the question is, when did this take place? This took place during the first Tufa of the second Beis Hamikdash. That's when this happened. And what some Sefer says, you see that it was so effective. It was so effective, this takana of Anshe Knesset, that when the Yevonim came, they were Moshe Nefesh in such a short amount of time. The whole part of Yisroel was turned over, and they were able to be Moshe Nefesh for Yiddishkeit, simply put, because this taka worked so well. This idea of making this achdus in avodas Hashem, which comes out through tefillah, and the Rambam says, clearly, when did this takana happen? This takana of the Anshe of making a nusach, a specific words. It happened during that's when the problem came up. Until then it was good. Everyone was able to misfollow in their own private, personal language. So, but then, Nis'avu b'frat, b'porasu b'yovam, b'sharu mois, and children were born in the Artzis HaGoyim, in those foreign lands, and they lost the ability to communicate in Lashon Kodesh, to talk in Lashon Kodesh. And for that matter, they couldn't even speak any other language properly. Nish Lashon Kodesh, not any other language. Therefore, Kim Shiro Ezra Beis. It's the same idea of the Bittul Yitzhak Avodah Zarah, the Ezra and his Beis Nesor. Amdu v'tikun av shmoina esrei brachos ala seder. So, if you think about it, Kinusa v'kinas bonav, which Marzab at least says clearly means the idea of a basic Knesset. Yitzila mi'adeisav means that that's the Hatzalah for all the future generations, because this is what keeps us going. So therefore, how fortunate are you that you're able to be in such a beautiful base Knesset, in such a beautiful place of gathering where everybody comes here in order to do Avodas Hashem together and to grow and to steig and to develop your talents and your potentials as a group under the leadership of such chashuv rabbanim, such chashuv yeshivas. So all I can say is the Rebbeinu should help them to be with great, great hatzlacha.
Amen.